Hello everybody, this is Hargis with Hargis Horsemanship, and I appreciate you guys joining me once again for the Ranch Road. I'm going to say a little bit more in regard to colt starting, and this time I'm going to share with you a little story. I had a young man several years ago come out to the ranch, and his mission was he wanted to be a better colt starter. And I asked him, specifically why. What are you looking to do with your ability to start colts? And honestly, he was very honest with me. He just said, well, I just want to enter a few of these colt starting competitions and kind of make a name for myself. Well, okay, I guess that's as good a goal as any, but that to me was a little bit more of a goal based on his ego more than really setting out to save the world and serve horses a lot better, I guess. But nonetheless, I understood his goal, and I promised that if he would come down to Texas, that I would help him out. And we had a few colts in line for him. Well, he came down, and for the first several days, I kept putting him on the best broke horses we all had on the place. One of our ranch horses that had won a lot in ranch horse competitions and stuff, and then on a mare that had won American Ranch Horse Association Horse of the Year a time or two. On my old ranch gelding who had won the NFQHA championship a few times in a ranch horse versatility. So we put him on some pretty deadgum nice horses that were well-rounded, well-broke, extremely well-behaved horses. And every day I'd put him on a different one of those, and we'd just keep cycling through. And as I kept doing that, I was waiting on him to finally say something to me, and sure enough, one day he did. He said, Mr. Van, I've only got a certain number of days that I can spend down here, and I've been here now for a little over a week, and I hadn't been on a colt yet. In fact, we hadn't even put one in a round pen yet. No, sir, what's your point? He goes, well, I've only got so much time. I want to get to learn more about colt starting. I thought I made that clear when I came down here. Oh, you made that clear? I said, tell you what, so I've got another place up in North Texas. Why don't you just meet me there in a few days? Would you be willing to do that? Oh, well, yes, sir. And I just looked at him and grinned and walked away. A little while later, I looked over there, and he was still standing kind of in the same spot. And I walked back up there to him. I said, young man, didn't you understand what I just said? I said, I got another place up in North Texas, and you just said you're willing to meet me there. Why are you still standing here? Oh, well, okay, I'll get started. It's all right, good. And I walked off again. And again, he was just still kind of standing there. Well, I come up to him the third time, and he said, Mr. Van, I don't really know where your place is in North Texas. I said, that's my point. I said, number one, I asked you, would you be willing to meet me there? And you said, yes. Then I asked you why you're still standing here, and you said you'd get started. But bottom line, you have absolutely no idea where you're going. Well, no, sir. I said, then how the hell can you start a colt when you can't get these really well-broke horses ridden around to a good standard as if you know what the heck you're doing? In other words, how can you start a colt if you have no idea what journey you're about to set yourself out on? So here's my advice to all these young folks out there that think they want to be colt starters. Get your butt on some darn good broke horses. Now, I'm not talking about Grandpa's plug that never bucked anybody off. I'm talking about horses that are really well broke. Horses that know how to get around. Horses that know how to do flying lead changes. Horses that know how to stop. Horses that know how to neck rein. Horses that are already really light in the face and responsive to your leg. Get on those horses and ride them around, but don't just ride them around. Ride them around with understanding. Know what you're doing. Know how to change leads. Know how to ask a horse to stop. Know how to get forward motion. Know how to establish a rhythm. Know how to hold the horse accountable to the rhythm that you do establish. Because you see, how can you start a colt that's probably going to be on the journey to do all those things I just listed there and probably a whole heck of a lot more if you have absolutely no idea what you're doing? Just because you've got the courage to put your foot in the stirrup and sling up on one doesn't make you a colt starter. What makes you a colt starter, first and foremost, is being a top-notch horseman. When you are a top-notch horseman, maybe then you've earned the right to start a colt, because what you've got to understand is whoever's going to come in and ride that horse after that is going to spend the rest of that horse's life fixing what wasn't done correctly in the first place. As Mr. Tom Dorrance used to say all the time, if you ever pull on one, you'll always have to pull on one. And what he was talking about was these colt starters that get too heavy-handed from the very beginning, and they go in there and they handle them like broncs, and then they wonder why 30 days, 60 days, 90 days later, these colts are still heavy in the face, hard, and still acting kind of bronky. It's because they were treated like broncs from the very beginning. They were handled roughly from the very beginning. They were never taught how to think and how to respond instead of react. And because of that, those horses will always be in training to try to correct those things. And that's just one little touch on it. But anyway, I just hope you guys appreciate that from a man's perspective who made those same mistakes. But luckily for me, I was raised in an environment where I was always around some of the top horsemen in our country during our generation. And luckily for me, those men were open with me, they shared with me, they talked to me, they worked with me a lot from the time that I was 8 years old onward, until finally where I started getting the understanding of what the heck they were doing, and then I knew how to ride a good broke horse. Still learning how to ride a really good broke horse. But then when I finally earned the right to starting colts, I was able to start colts for some of those top trainers in the country. I was very fortunate to be able to ride some of the best, or start some of the best 2-year-olds in the business that went from my facility right into the fraternities, both cutting and reining. And the people who followed me up were the people who were going to take those same colts and go win big on them. So again, I've got everybody that was a great horseman above me to thank for showing me that lesson early in life, and showed me too that it was a journey without end, meaning that we consistently work on improvement, getting better with each and every ride that we make on these horses, learning from every broke horse so that we are better at starting and helping the younger horse. Appreciate you guys joining me again on the ranch road, and until next time, this is Van Hargis with Van Hargis Horsemanship.